Allied special forces are on the ultimate secret mission to capture Adolf Hitler and his Nazi generals.
Come on, General!
Hollywood blockbusters celebrate them as desert rats and inglorious bastards. Now, teams of experts follow in the footsteps of these wartime commandos. From the rugged island of Crete
There is marks that they could have used for orienteering.
to the remote deserts of Libya in North Africa.
We're driving along the edge of a minefield. If we go off this road, anything could happen.
Their mission? To find out why only one capture operation succeeded, while others led to outright disaster. This is the story of the real Inglorious Bastards. A team of British commandos have infiltrated German-held northern Africa. The operatives penetrate deep behind enemy lines.
Cover me.
Their plan? To capture or kill one of their toughest enemies. Nazi General Erwin Rommel. For months, his Africa Corps has struck blow after blow against the Allies, pushing them back hundreds of kilometers. The man has become a myth. The invincible Desert Fox. The British soldiers are part of an elite commando team devoted to hunting down Hitler and his generals. They are raiding Rommel's headquarters in Libya. But here things are about to go horribly wrong. Some 70 years later, this man is determined to find out what really happened. Historian and ex-Special Forces officer Michael Asher has come to modern-day Libya. With the help of locals, he wants to trace the route of these so-called Inglorious Bastards. To find out the secrets of the raid on Rommel and piece together how this undercover mission fell apart.
For me, there's always been a great mystery overhanging this case. We know that once the commandos arrived at Rommel's headquarters, there was a terrific shootout and the commander of the British commandos was killed. But yet we don't know exactly what happened. There are many eyewitness reports, but it's still a big black spot about what actually happened.
The operation to capture or kill Rommel started with a secret landing operation. From submarines, the British commandos set out in dinghies to reach the shores of Libya held by the Germans. To trace the exact route of the commandos, Asher gets help from Fawzi Taher, whose grandfather supported the operation. His family helped a British agent who was disguised as a Bedouin.
The British intelligence officer positioned himself on the top of this escarpment here, in a high position. With him was a guide who'd been sent by Fawzi's grandfather, Hussein Tahir, in order to vector in the submarines. It was a Morse code signal which they'd agreed on, which would bring the submarines in. There!
The landing situation couldn't have been worse.
They arrived in the eye of the storm. There was a terrible storm blowing. The sea was very, very high. It wasn't at all what they'd expected. And when they got out on the decks of the submarine, many of them were just washed off the decks.
Come on, let's go.
So the submarines could only launch half the raiders before having to return to base. A bad start for the rest of the team.
Okay, fellow, cover me.
Some 70 years later, Michael Asher believes he has identified where the commandos landed that night.
This certainly looks like the place, but it's hard to be sure because there are hundreds of these sort of coves along the Libyan coast. What we do know is there was an old ruined building very near to the beach, and what I want to do now is look for someone to show us if there is such a building here.
From Libyan Coast Guards, the team learns of a shepherd who has been living in the area since the 1940s. If they are lucky, he may know the exact landing beach and where the commandos crossed the coastal mountains.
شوف الرجل ده
لا يهاف هو مزبوط خشم الكلب.
ايوه انا عارف لكن
رأيت هذا خشم الكلب في جية بلاكي قالوا أنا بدي جي في جية طلعت النقلية.
His father told him the whole story about how British commandos landed on the beach at Kashim El Kalb, and it's well known that they spent some time there.
The shepherd leads the team a kilometre further east to the original site of the landing operation.
كنت صغيرة كنت تلعب هنا ولا؟ والله.
From his father, the Libyan knows the commandos lit a fire in this ruin to dry off after the landing.
I think we're very lucky to find this old shepherd, and we're very lucky to find this house, which he says is a Roman house going back hundreds of years. And this establishes, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is actually the landing beach.
A perfect hidden cove for the landing. The next challenge for the commandos, to penetrate inland to Rommel's HQ without being spotted by the Nazis. Local guides lead the soldiers through an area called Jebel al-Akhdar, the Green Mountains. How did they overcome the escarpment that was protecting Rommel's headquarters? Following in the commandos' footsteps, Michael Asher wants to find out how difficult it was for them to cross here. He discovers a wadi, a dry riverbed.
Definitely they would have gone through the wadi. That would have been their easiest access. I mean, eventually it would have been quite a steep climb, but there was a sort of gentle lead up to it.
On the morning after the landing, an enemy aircraft drones only 250 meters above the commandos. The soldiers are lucky. The wadi gives them cover. Today, even for a fit ex-commando soldier like Asher, and in daylight, the hike is a challenge. The commandos had to be alert at all times to the danger of enemy patrols.
They were travelling at night, it was pitch dark, they had very heavy loads to carry, they were always in fear that they might be spotted by the enemy, there might be enemy patrols about. So, you know, it was a very, very arduous task for them.
It's a 200-metre climb up the riverbed. And in this wadi, the mission almost ended in disaster.
The commandos were actually very lucky that they didn't come this way a day later. If they had have done, they'd have run into the worst rainstorm in northern Africa for 40 years. And just look at this wadi, you see how steep it is. Torrential rainstorm here would have sent flash floods coursing down the wadi, and it would have washed away the whole patrol, and no one would ever have heard of the Rommel raid.
Asher's discovery confirms that the commandos chose the perfect route to avoid enemy contact. 8 kilometers from Rommel's headquarters, the operatives reach their final base for the attack, a secret cave.
Here we can stay for the night.
Locals have supplied them with intelligence on the rough layout and security situation of Rommel's HQ.
Hey guys, show you something. So this is the main crossroad of the headquarters.
Are there any patrols, German patrols around?
Well, they are here and here. but they won't be expecting us.
How has General Erwin Rommel become the Allies' public enemy #1? The myth of his military invincibility was born in the battles around the city of Tobruk. Today, as then, Tobruk is Libya's easternmost deep-sea harbour. It was crucial for Rommel's supply lines on his advance to push the Allies further into Egypt. Asher takes a temporary detour from retracing the commando's route to see what the area around Tobruk can reveal about Rommel himself.
The capture of Tobruk was Rommel's greatest victory, and it was the greatest disaster of the war so far for the Allies. Here we could get an idea what made Rommel the most feared of all German generals.
To discover the sites of Rommel's battles, Asher has to leave the city and travel kilometers into the desert. Here, Asher is looking for bunker defenses where severe fighting took place.
He told me that the bunker fortress of Ras Madoa is about 15 minutes from here.
To get an idea why the Allies feared Rommel, the historian meets General Suleiman Obeidi, retired commander of the Libyan forces of Tobruk. The general explains the defences, where Rommel had later forced his way into the Allied-held fortress.
The general is telling me that these defences were built in the shape of a circle to provide all-round defence.
34,000 Allied soldiers were hiding in 2 rings of bunker trenches secured by an outer line of desert forts.
The trenches in between were communication trenches, so people could move between them without being seen or shot at by the enemy.
For their raid on Rommel, the commandos avoided this bunker zone because German troops were everywhere.
That's amazing.
Historian Asher inspects the trenches. At a former machine gun post, a discovery.
See these names here? I found here the names of some, what looks like British soldiers, but it could be Australian, because we know the Australians occupied this place in 1941. The date is very clear, 1941, and this could be Australian Expeditionary Force. There's names Barrel, Fraser, looks like Mallory.
Evidence of fierce fighting is scattered everywhere.
This is mortar, but still dangerous.
Still dangerous?
Yes, should be. This should be artillery, and that should be German, I think. Should be 88 millimeters.
88. Yeah. So that would be German, yeah, because the British didn't have 88.
With his blitzkrieg victories, Rommel became one of Hitler's favorite generals and an icon of Nazi propaganda. Killing him would be more than a German defeat in Africa. It would be a disaster for the Third Reich. What really happened when the Allied commandos reached Rommel's HQ deep behind enemy lines? In 1941, German-held North Africa. Allied commandos set out on a mission so dramatic Hollywood could never have scripted it. To capture or kill the Desert Fox, Nazi General Erwin Rommel in his headquarters deep behind enemy lines. Before the raid on Rommel, the hit squad takes cover in a cave 8 kilometers from the Nazi HQ.
This will keep your spirits up.
Preparing for the attack, the commando's leaders issue a special kind of drug.
We know that Special Forces units were actually issued with benzodrine, as were these commandos. And benzodrine is a kind of amphetamine, and it would have given them tremendous energy, it would have kept them awake, and it would really have speeded them up. But of course, there's a tremendous crash which follows a few days later. And I think that had quite a serious effect on special service troops that really isn't known about.
Their leader, Captain Geoffrey Keyes, had a very personal motivation to lead this raid, one that cast a shadow on the operation.
Geoffrey Keyes' father was a hero of World War I. He was also Admiral of the Fleet and also Commander of Combined Operations, which meant that he was Geoffrey Keyes' boss. Now, Keyes definitely came here seeking glory that would gain him the kind of fame that his father had. He wanted to go down in history as the man who killed or captured the Desert Fox, Rommel, and that's always dangerous.
What really happened in Rommel's headquarters remains a mystery to this day. Michael Asher's retracing of the commando raid continues further east, close to the Libyan border with Egypt. He's searching for the headquarters where the assault on Rommel took place. But it's a dangerous journey. The Libyan military has to guide him through minefields left over from the war.
We're driving along the edge of a minefield, which is still live. And if we go off this road, anything could happen.
Stop.
A sudden stop, mines in the way. The military engineer resets the wires supposed to warn passers-by.
Captain Ramadan told me that the reason they planted so many thousands of mines here was to provide an invincible protective wall against the troops advancing against them, and to protect this line of fortresses they built across the desert. No.
Thousands of locals have been killed or injured by these mines since the war.
No. Even people have driven off the road in their cars, have been killed when mines exploded. And many people walking or with their animals have been killed or injured in this area. So it's very important we stay strictly on this road.
The convoy moves on deeper into the Libyan desert. Finally, ruins of wartime buildings. A severe battle has obviously taken place here.
Being here, you really do get the feeling of what it must have been like 70 years ago. There's still shell holes, bullet holes in the walls. There are still artifacts lying around, shell cases and bits of old jerry cans. You really do have the feeling of what it must have been like defending this place against the Germans.
Is this the site of Rommel's headquarters where the British raid took place? Throughout the campaign, the Desert Fox used different HQs to confuse the enemy. Historian Asher inspects the site's layout. It doesn't look like Rommel's modern-style HQ where the capture mission took place. Asher gets new information. The Allied commandos are said to have attacked Rommel's headquarters in an area further west. Green Square in Tripoli, the capital of Libya. Ex-Special Forces officer Asher passes into the Medina, the old city, for an important meeting. He has learned that the location of Rommel's wartime HQ now lies on restricted state property. At the National History Centre, he seeks special permission to enter the site. Finally, he's allowed to enter the restricted property of the former Nazi HQ with his Libyan witnesses.
There are many differing reports about what happened on that day that Geoffrey Keyes was killed. And I think only by coming to the place itself and by examining it can we really find an answer to what actually happened on that day.
Asher believes that the original locations will reveal their own story. The British commandos are following intelligence that Rommel has recently been spotted at these headquarters. To celebrate his 50th birthday with a small dinner party. Security is low. The German forces don't expect their enemy so far behind the lines.
Es wird gefährlicher werden.
Gefährlich.
Ich glaube, wir sollten Rundgang machen.
Today, historian Asher meets an important eyewitness, a Libyan who worked as a cook for the German forces. Aissa Bougraim witnessed the events at Rommel's headquarters a few hours after the raid.
When he came here early in the morning of that day, the place was full of people. There were officers, Italian, German. They were very excited about something. There were vehicles here. There were guards standing around here. So at first he couldn't go in through this door. He went round the side here and he found the bodies of 3 German soldiers lying there.
On the night of the raid, the commandos wanted to gain entrance from the back, but forcing the back door open would have alerted the Germans. So they chose a much more dangerous approach, attacking the HQ's entrance. What will be waiting for them in the lair of the Desert Fox? Libya in North Africa. British operatives are attacking the headquarters of Nazi General Erwin Rommel. Inside, a fatal gunfight erupts, leaving commando leader Captain Geoffrey Keyes dead. Some 70 years later, historian Michael Asher investigates with Libyan witnesses what really happened in the Nazi HQ. Aissa Bougraim, then a 22-year-old cook, arrived at the HQ shortly after the attack.
When he came in here, the first thing he saw was Geoffrey Keyes lying just here at the bottom of the stairs. He was dressed in British military uniform. He had blood coming from underneath the ear, which is soaked through his uniform.
Asher inspects the layout of the house for clues to where and how the commando leader died. He discovers the room where the fatal shootout is supposed to have taken place. 3D graphics help reconstruct the conflicting scenarios as to how the commando's leader may have died.
The official report states that Keyes moves over towards this door. He opens the door, looks inside. He sees 10 German soldiers here who are taken by surprise. He then closes the door, tells Campbell to prepare grenades, opens the door again, moves inside, and is promptly shot by one of the German soldiers. At this point, Sergeant Terry, who is behind Keyes, armed with a Tommy gun, fires a burst of bullets at the German soldiers, and over his shoulder, Captain Campbell throws 1 or 2 grenades inside.
Asher believes something is terribly wrong with this official version.
The official version of events just doesn't make sense. No professional soldier is going to open a door of a room, expose himself to the enemy, close the door and then open it a second time, knowing for certain he's just going to be shot.
Is the official British version a big cover-up? Internal German wartime documents now reveal one of the Germans reports that the first British soldier into the room was carrying a machine gun. This couldn't have been Keyes, who only carried a pistol.
The Germans see a man coming towards them dressed in British military uniform with a Tommy gun. I believe this was Sergeant Jack Terry, who was carrying a Tommy gun. I believe at this point, Keyes is already down.
So how did Keyes really die?
The German report states that when they entered this door, they found standing here a very big, very tough German rifleman Jamatta. And Keyes began to wrestle with Jamatta, at which point Captain Robin Campbell tries to shoot the guard, but ended up shooting Geoffrey Keyes by mistake.
A dark mystery is revealed. It appears that the commando's leader may have actually been killed by friendly fire. One question remains. If this is what happened, why such a cover-up?
I think there was a deliberate cover-up. I think that, you know, Geoffrey Keyes was a privileged officer. He was the son of the commander of combined forces, a British naval hero, and I think there was a very serious attempt to cover up what had happened, which most probably was an accident, but was turned into something very heroic and honourable.
The mission's last stroke of bad luck was the ultimate irony. Rommel wasn't even there. Due to engine trouble with his plane, the Nazi general was still stuck in Greece and returned to Libya only hours after the raid. Paying respect to the courage of the commandos, Rommel orders his men to bury Captain Keyes with full military honours. But this was far from the last commando raid behind enemy lines. Allied operatives prepare more daring missions to capture top-level Nazi leaders. One of the most exotic plots targets Hitler's commander on the Greek island of Crete.
Halt!
This time, will they strike a big blow against the Third Reich? On the Greek island of Crete, an expert team investigates another Allied kidnapping operation that took place here back in spring 1944. The mission of that commando team, to capture Nazi General Heinrich Kreipe, commander of the German occupying forces on Crete. Just a few months before D-Day, British Prime Minister Churchill approved the mission as a piece of misdirection, trying to trick the Germans into believing the Allied invasion would not attack in France, but in Greece. Cretan resistance fighters and British agents were to capture the Nazi general and to escape through the island's wild mountains.
There had been other missions to grab German generals, but they were not successful. This was the one and only time that it was a success. The big question to me is, why was this mission so successful? How did these men get here and snatch a German general right from under his command's noses?
April 1944. To land on the Nazi-held island, the British used the hidden coves on Crete's south coast. More than 65 years later, an ex-airborne ranger investigates how the agents overcame this rugged coast. Derek Campbell served on secret capture missions in Asia during the 1970s, but saw nothing like this.
It staggers me, it impresses me that these men were able to do this in this type of terrain at night. That's just, to me, it's mind-boggling. It really is. With the training that I had, I think people would need at least another 6 months training just doing this specific thing. You know, just looking at this, it's a bone breaker.
With him are Katerino Anagnostaki and Nikos Gigotakis, two historians from Crete.
Is this Maridaki?
Yes.
Oh, here was the place then.
They are searching for the beach where the British commandos landed in their hunt to capture the Nazi general. From the moment of occupation, British boats from Allied-held areas in North Africa secretly travelled to Crete's southern coast to supply a network of resistance fighters against the German enemy on the island. Now, Derek and his team are looking for landmarks which suggest the right spot for a commando landing.
Looking at it from here, from the ocean side, there is marks that they could have used for orienteering.
The information is that the British submarines, they could land exactly in this place because the water is deeper than 20 meters, exactly in this place.
Is this also the place where the hit squad landed with their dinghies?
This is like the part that sticks out. And that right there would be a good landmark. Once they saw this rock formation, the jut out here, they're coming in the other way, all they would have to do would be to make a right.
Some 3 years before the commandos' raid, Crete has been conquered by German forces. But this mountainous south coast remains hard for them to control. Having inspected this particular beach area, Derek Campbell now believes the kidnapped commandos would have tried to land on a flatter spot.
Because it's a very long and steep trip to get up into the mountains to get towards where the general was. I mean, they had to look for the easiest way to be able to move fast. In this area here, it would have been impossible.
The team now suspects the landing beach of the wartime commandos may be further east along this coast. In a village nearby, the expert team finds an old man who's been living here since the war. Manolis's father witnessed where the British commandos landed in their attempt to kidnap Nazi General Kreipe.
It says that the Germans were up there. The exact point was over there, where the rocks are. As you go behind this rock that is at the end of the beach, you could see the place where they landed.
For ex-airborne ranger Campbell, the challenge for these agents was much harder than his own modern-day mission experience.
We would not have come in on dinghies. We would probably have come in with helicopters. We would have a couple of Cobra gunships to come in first. They would take out the searchlight that was down that way. Our motto was always get in, get out, get on. That's the difference. We had technology, these operatives did not. They had their own homemade technology for the times, which was using the local population, blending in with the local population, and avoiding contact at all costs with the Germans.
Leader of the operation on Crete was Lieutenant Patrick Lee Firmer, not the classic type of soldier.
Paddy was an adventurer. He had survived walking across Europe. He survived crossing borders. He walked from Northern Europe right to somewhere to Greece. He was the ideal man. He'd go in, prove to the Greeks that the Brits were there backing them.
Lee Firmer's adventures continued on Crete and its rugged landscape. Today, Derek Campbell is recceing his own team's mountain expedition, while historians Nikos and Katarina examine a one-of-a-kind archive treasure. Photos taken by the operation's second-in-command, Captain William Moss. Photographs taken during the actual undercover mission. These photos provide crucial clues to the agent's mountain route.
Let's connect the photos with this route.
Probably Moss shot the first photo when they were all together.
And then they climbed out in the top of the mountains through the snow fields. They were in a very miserable situation. It was a lot of raining, they were wet, without food. They had to follow this route, and they had no information about what happened exactly behind them.
But the historians can only follow the photo trail so far. Moss stopped taking photos when they were hunted by German troops through the mountains. How could the British agents snatch Hitler's general right from under the noses of the Nazi enemy? Our explorers are in the Cretan mountains, where the British agents are said to have had a secret HQ for planning the capture of Nazi General Heinrich Kreipe. From the island's landing beach, the agents had sneaked further north to a hideout in the mountains. Historians Nikos and Katarina are guided by a shepherd whose grandfather helped to hide the British. In 1944, the area was a perfect retreat, a stronghold for Cretan resistance fighters, but not far away from the Nazi general's HQ.
Mr. Sifakis told to me that this tree was the observation point in a big area around, because they could see everybody that could come from every direction.
Finally, the historians discover the commando team's mountain headquarters.
In front of this.
Wartime photos identify the stone hut, also used by Cretan rebels who support the capturing plot. With the help of local resistance fighters, British agents Patrick Leigh Fermor and William Moss are looking for the weak spot in Kreipe's defences.
How do we get our way through the mountains?
Anybody waiting for us?
The resistance fighters will help the British agents get away after the kidnap.
And we don't have any Germans on our way.
Their first plan is to snatch the general in his headquarters just south of the city of Heraklion. The German staff is secured by a garrison of 15,000 German soldiers. The British agents spy on the headquarters and the general's private villa, a few kilometers north of them. More than 65 years later, on the site of the former German headquarters, historian Katharina meets Despina, whose father worked undercover at General Kreipe's casino. Did he help bring the commando team inside?
She says that Kreipe used to come here every evening. He played piano when he liked to, or he played cards. One night, Leigh Fermor went to her house, to her father, and he asked him how could he get into this house where the General Kreipe was. She says that there were many guards over here in front of this door and another one over there on the square. It was very difficult for somebody to come here who was not German.
The security at the general's HQ was too tight. The operatives had to find another way to capture him.
Paddy recognized the best way to catch somebody is to be disguised, stop the car, picking their top general.
Now they plan to attack Kreipe on the road,
You're looking good.
disguised as German military police. Being a commando carries a fatal risk. If they're caught, it will be the death sentence. In October 1942, Hitler gave the order, all enemies on commando missions, whether armed or unarmed, are to be slaughtered to the last man.
It was one of those Hitler's brutality ideas. If you find an enemy in plain clothes, you can say he's a spy. And under that, you can say, I'm executing spies. That's one way of doing it, by killing them. And by killing others or letting them know, if you dare to come, you'll get shot.
The best spot to stop the general's car turned out to be a road junction between Kreipe's HQ, south of Heraklion, and his private villa. Historians Nikos and Katerina are visiting the original site the British agents chose to ambush the general's car.
In this place, I think this was a place. And this was the direction of the car.
Halt!
Was ist los?
General Kreipe, consider yourself my prisoner of war.
The commandos used the general's car to trick the Germans. Nazi control points have orders not to stop their general's limousine. While Captain Moss walks the general into the mountains, Leigh Fermor drives the German car to the north coast. The agent leaves a letter to the Germans pretending he has already taken the general off the island. He ends with typical British humour, P.S. We are very sorry to have to leave this beautiful car behind. The trick doesn't last. Soon thousands of German soldiers are hunting the agents, who have to cross the island's inner mountain range to a pickup area on the south coast. Today, the expert team is on their way to Mount Ida. Ex-Special Forces Derek Campbell wants to find out how the operatives managed in this extreme terrain.
They came through this little cut that's right here between these two peaks. So they stayed along this ridge line here.
They followed this route to the south.
It's very... This peak, is that one?
Yeah. Yes.
They were doing this at night, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just looking at this terrain here as it's coming through here. It's very rocky. We had to be in shape to do that.
This photograph is after they have left the first hideout. Of course, they walk in the dark, and there is snow all around. It was April, and it's quite high.
During daylight, the commando team have to be alert to German planes sent out to spot them. With the help of Cretan rebels, agents Moss and Lee Firmer are rushing through the foothills of Mount Ida, the highest on the island. They have to meet up with other rebels who can lead them over the mountain ridge to the south coast. In 2 days, they are supposed to be picked up by British speedboats. The 48-year-old general now becomes a heavy burden. He seems to be trying to slow down the commando's escape.
Come on, General!
To cross Mount Ida for the rendezvous in the south, there is only one shortcut, a narrow passage at almost 2,500 meters. Today, the expert team follows the exact route of the commandos.
Was there a trail that they had used?
This period there was not a road like this. It was just the landscape as you can see around.
This is the only pass to the south.
The Germans only thought that people brought their shepherds up here. That's why they didn't come here, correct? Because there's nothing here.
It was very difficult. They had to walk and start controlling everything in their passage. They had to control houses, they had to control hideouts like little valleys. They walked beside each other in a distance of 50 meters. They could not come very fast, 6 or 7 hours.
So the British agents safely crossed Mount Ida to a hidden wireless station. Here they face a new challenge. They will not make it in time to meet the speedboats for their escape to Cairo.
This bloody thing doesn't work.
They cannot contact their pickup boat and are stranded on the enemy's island. The Germans are closing in. For 3 days, the commandos are completely surrounded by Nazi troops who want to cut them off from the coast. One setback follows another. On a steep descent, General Kreipe injures his leg.
Is that okay, General?
Ja, danke.
Their food supply is running out. Morale is low. Their mission is only one step from disaster. May the 12th, 1944. German forces catch up with the agents. A fierce battle erupts. Today, the expert team debates what happened in that fierce encounter.
At the point where they almost got captured, there was a German convoy that came.
Yes.
And the partisans stopped this convoy with machine gun fire and grenades that gave them almost a clear shot to get down to the escape beach.
The mission is coming to a climax. The Nazi troops are completely taken by surprise.
The Germans really did not know what they were up against, where the British knew how to deal with each situation simply because the months of training for guerrilla operations. The diversions took the heat off them for a while.
Out in a secret bay, the British agents push their dinghies into the sea. One of the Navy soldiers who was to evacuate them by speedboat tells his story on camera for the first time.
I was a driver. I was told we got some brown jobs, they used to call the army. There are some nutters, just make sure that they get off there.
Finally, the agents escape the German-held island.
What happened was either scaring, to put it bluntly, when you have to go, and you push your engines up and you go like the clappers. The speed of these boats is quite good.
In their headquarters in Egypt, the British present General Kreipe to the press as a major propaganda coup over Nazi Germany.
It was a morale buster for the Germans, realizing that one of their generals could get taken from right under their noses. It gave the Allies a deceptive move, knowing that it would keep the Germans' troops here and not having them sent to the Normandy and beaches where the eventual large-scale invasion did take place.
The success of the capture mission struck the Nazis just 23 days before the final invasion. In the lead-up to D-Day, British commandos set out one last time to capture or kill Nazi General Erwin Rommel in his castle HQ in France. Meanwhile, US Rangers first have to knock out a giant enemy gun battery covering Omaha Beach. Will Allied commandos finally beat their old enemy? Normandy, 1944. On the eve of D-Day, Allied agents plan an ultimate mission to kidnap or kill an old enemy. General Erwin Rommel is now in charge of fighting back the invasion.
The Allies were obsessed with Rommel. I think, they feared Rommel. They thought he was, by far the most able of all the Nazi generals.
Before the British could reach Rommel, US Rangers had to face an almost overwhelming threat. The gun batteries of Point du Hoc, 6 155mm cannons high on a cliff. Looking down on Utah and Omaha Beach.
These guns could range in both directions. So it was absolutely critical that these guns be knocked out in order that we have success on Omaha Beach.
Dwight Anderson, director of the Normandy American Cemetery, knows how Ranger veterans assaulted the cliff guns to ease the way for the ultimate mission to get Rommel.
The Rangers had special devices that would rocket propel the hooks up here. The Germans were in fact throwing hand grenades down. There was a German machine gun back over here to our right, which had them under fire. As you can well imagine, the Germans were trying to cut some of the ropes as they were coming up.
The Germans had pulled back the guns with wagons from the cliff top into a hideout, but the Rangers tracked them down.
The German artillerymen were not, in fact, on the guns. They were coming out of their hide position, realizing that the naval bombardment was over, and they were getting into formation. And they were about 200 meters, in fact, from where First Sergeant Rommel discovered the guns. It was at that point he would have opened the breech, as you see here, and placed a thermite grenade inside. Once that happens, the cannon is essentially useless.
The Rangers' triumph over the Nazi shore battery at Point du Hoc eases the way for British paratroopers to hunt down General Rommel. In a small village west of Paris, Hitler's general is hiding in a medieval castle.
In 1944, they were looking for a chance to kill Rommel because they thought getting Rommel in this medieval castle in France could have made a difference to the outcome of the war.
It seems impossible to knock out Rommel inside his castle because he could easily retreat down into the dungeons. But the French resistance radios the Nazi general's weak spot: his frequent walks in the local woods. The SAS paratroopers are led by Franco-American Lieutenant Jack Lee, but fate plays a trick on them yet again.
The irony is, by the time the SAS operation went into the field, Rommel had already been badly injured by a Spitfire in his car while driving along the road. So this was the irony. Rommel was really finished and never went back into action.
The myth of Rommel's invincibility faded, while the courage of the special forces of World War II became legion. Their wartime missions left a legacy of daring and determination emulated by the special forces of today.